David, thank you for joining us this afternoon for your post-season review. Firstly, how has the last couple of weeks been since you haven't had football on your mind?
What was it? It feels longer, doesn't it? It was last Saturday, wasn't it? So we've got to work straight away, Finn. To be honest, and you need to. So you don't really have a break as a manager at this level of football. So you need to have conversations with the players you've going to retain, and then you need to have conversations with players that you think may add a lot of quality to the squad. So we've started that. Obviously conscious that a lot of players and football clubs go away for their weekends away, and players also want a break. The reality is managers can't have a break, but players do need one. So you don't always have that conversation as much as you would like, because some players just aren't interested at the moment, and they will be in a few weeks. So in terms of what have I been up to, nothing different really. You're looking at conversations with footballers, and that's pretty much Monday evening, Tuesday evening, all the way through to Friday evening, with your full-time work in between.
That's great. It's been a long season, 9 months back on the game, but let's go right back to July, where we had pre-season. How vital was that for you in terms of the construction of the squad going into the first game of the season? Yeah,
I think it's similar. So what went well last year was that we did our business early, and I think by the end of May we were content and happy with what we had coming in. Obviously you never know what's going to turn out, and in that respect, obviously we announced Carlo coming in, and that was a big signing along with River and Jamie, and a week or two into pre-season he's gone to Parkway. So whatever plans you have, you never really know how they're going to turn out until you get started on the 3rd of August last year in the Cup. Pre-season's always hit and miss at this standard because of time away. Obviously some of the players are in the education game and obviously finish school or college towards the end of July, and they need a break and sometimes miss a few days of pre-season. But in terms of last pre-season, we ended it really pleased with the players we had at our disposal, and we were pleased with how we were looking to start.
I mean, even like Jamie, for example, he's been fantastic to the squad as an influence. That was one of the potentially best signings we made in pre-season.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, that's well documented, and as soon as you get him into the club environment, everybody sees what he brings and what he offers, and week in, week out, he also produces on the pitch, and that's a difficult balance for him to be able to achieve that. So he's very well organised. He organises on the pitch. He gets the environment in the right place, and just does everything properly in respect to how I think it should be done. We're very, very similar in that respect, and it's a great addition to the squad last year, and to get him on board again this year with a slight tweak to his role. He was doing it throughout the season anyway, but to make it official is a big boost, and it should help with the conversations we want to have between now and the end of June.
So let's go to a big positive for us as a club. When we travelled to nationally North Oxford City, what was the experience like for the squad and you?
It was okay. I don't get too carried away with it, because obviously the games we did win, we were expected to win. Aside from Mousehole away was a really good result, 2-2. We were 2-0 up, and we've come away 2-2. And the replay was a fantastic night. I think that was probably one of the best memories early on, the replay when we beat them 1-0 here. I'll be honest, Oxford away as a draw was a terrible one for me and the players, because we knew what we were up against. I would have much preferred a team of a similar standard at our place to give yourself a chance to progress, because when you get to the second qualifying round, you then start dreaming of the fourth and the first round proper, and the minute Oxford City came out of the hat, that sort of distinguished any hope we had really. Wasn't being defeatist, it's just we knew the proposition on 4G, Conference North, it couldn't have got any worse as a draw. It was a good build-up, but from 3 o'clock onwards, the boys would never want to talk about it again.
Well, yeah, I suppose, for some of the players, it's been the first time they played against professional players. So, lads that have been at step 6, maybe had never come across that. But, for me, massive event for us as a club. But then we kind of dip back into the season after that cup run. We don't have the best results. What do you kind of put that down to?
I think it was a bit indifferent, wasn't it? I think up until, let's say, Christmas, and I think we had a half-decent run, didn't we, during Christmas, and then suspensions, I would say, Finn, have been the biggest issue for us early on. Obviously the FA and the officials always appear to stamp on things differently in the first couple of months or first few months of the season than they do thereafter. Don't know why that is, and that's the same for every team, but we need to be mindful this year that we can't have as many players suspended, and I don't think I've ever been involved in football in a season where we've had 2 players sent off in 2 different games. So obviously we went down to Mousehole, we had Harvey and Josh sent off, so you then got the next 3 games without those 2. Falmouth home, we had River and Finn sent off, and so you go then, and these are big players. So when you're missing players through suspension, and obviously Owen at the time was with us, and he had an early red and another one at home to Didcot. That's too many. So to have 6 red cards, and I might be missing one. New Year's Day was a Falmouth game, so to have 6 or 7 before New Year's Day is too many, and that's something we will have to be aware of. I'm not saying that's the reason why we dipped, but to do well in this level of football, you need everybody available. And some of the players I mentioned, when Harvey got suspended, he was on fire, absolutely on fire. And the way that investigation went about, because of the nature of the sending off, I think it did affect him. And he'll learn from that and be a better person and player for it. But those little things don't help when you're trying to achieve stuff. It's not the reason why we stuttered. But it's partly the reason.
Yeah, so, we went into New Year, not the best results. However, there was a turning point for us. When do you think that was?
I don't think we were great until the Shaftesbury game, where I think it was up and down. So and sometimes you'd play well and you think, have we not got anything out of that? The lowest point was Cribs away for me. 3-1 down at half time, and I got really emotional in terms of, not angry, I was really emotional and upset with what they produced in that first half performance, and I had to ask a lot of questions of the players on that evening, and that's the lowest I've ever been since I've been a manager, and I was like that for a few days after. So that was not a great night at all, but we got something out of it. And then I think a few weeks later we were playing Shaftesbury at home here, and again it was a really tense evening. And we've come out on top, and if I'm honest, they played well on that night, and we got a 2-1 win. From there on in, I think we won 4 out of the next 5 and drew 1. So obviously that saw us home. So in terms of turning points, when we played really well, Shaftesbury at home, from there on in we were good, and yeah, let's say squashed any worries of the relegation.
So yeah, let's go off the pitch now. Let's talk about attendances, because I think the season's been fantastic. You see a lot more younger supporters through the gates. Yeah. I don't entirely know, but I think this might be one of the highest attendances we've ever had at Woodland in terms of numbers through the gates.
The growth of the club, we've mentioned it a few times, and every year on year it grows, and I'm not entirely sure where some of the youngsters come from sometimes, to be honest, and I think there was one evening, it might have been the Devon Bowl game, they were making all sorts of noise, weren't they? And to get that sort of crowd and those boys in the gate when we're a village club is fantastic. We've talked about it the other day, the media aspect which you provide, and the guys behind the camera, and obviously Tony Ryder does nothing but grow the club. You can't underestimate that. So long may that continue. I think everything in terms of pound for pound, the football club's run probably the best pound for pound in the country. It is that simple. Like there's nothing not to like about how this football club is run, for the size of it and the level that they play at. And that's a big part of why people hang around when they come. And you know yourself, you've been made to feel welcome, and hopefully you're here for many a year, regardless of what you do with your future.
So yeah, particular for us, it's been fantastic to work with you guys. And like going into the future, I think, talk about the youngsters, we've got a new side coming in. We've got the under-18s coming to the Welling Rovers as part of an extension. What will that bring for you in particular?
I think it always brings 1 or 2 gems, doesn't it? I think it's a big addition to the football club again. And when we talk about growth, it's an affiliation that we sometimes, again, you take for granted, and you say you don't need it. But when you're struggling for a team and you need registered players, by default the under-18s will register next year. So if you're going with 13 because you've got injuries and suspensions, the lads who are performing well in that under-18 team are in the hot seat to come and get involved in the squad. And that's something that we haven't had the luxury of. You sometimes do have to go begging and borrowing, and you're asking players to come in and do you a favour that perhaps haven't been involved 6 weeks before, so why are they going to then turn around and do you a favour? Because that does happen. So to have an under-18 team, whilst the groundsmen may not enjoy it, is a positive for the club, and we're looking forward to it.
And finally, let's just reflect on yourself for a moment. It's obviously been one of those seasons where you've learnt different things, you've kind of tried different things. What have you learnt about yourself this year?
I take it too seriously, if I'm honest. I struggle when things don't go our way, and that's quietly, I struggle. I'm not very good at home after we've had a poor result. And what does it mean in the bigger picture? It don't mean a lot, does it? I think it's a game of football, but because it's in your blood, and you'll know because you're passionate about the game, and other people will know, and managers, and it's a lonely job. You have your support network, and you rely on them, you trust them. But when things aren't going well, it is a really dark place to be, and it's not going over the top, it's just how it makes you feel. So like, you try and train yourself not to take it too seriously. I think I'm pretty well balanced in terms of judging characters as well, and I give certain people a bit of slack and rein other people in, and you've got to try and get that balance right, and I haven't always got that balance right, if I'm honest. Let's face it, you always have a plan at the start of the season, which means when you kick off with the squad, you're going to keep that squad and add to it for the right reasons. Any plan that says you're going to lose your captain probably, early October, middle of October, and then have to name a new one, you don't plan for that. And that was a difficult conversation that went as well as it could for both parties, and Owen was very, very respectful and understood what the conversation was about, but you never plan for it. And other things that we've had to deal with this season in terms of going to Bashley on that emotional day when it was the first game after Jordan's accident, and the emotions were running through the roof, and being part of that, just in terms of pride of the club and how we dealt with that. And then the Didcot one, which was horrendously sad because the supporters lost his life. So you put all that into the mix, that all happens in a football season. And so the experiences you get, you do learn from. Last 3 years in the job for me, I'm going into my fourth, and some things you never ever want to come across again, and others will happen again in terms of the football decisions, and you've got to try and learn from the previous experiences and make a decision. And the decision sometimes easy, but it's whether it's right or wrong at the end of it.
Well, thank you so much for giving your time to have this interview with us. We've got an awards night now at Silver Street to enjoy. Hopefully you guys get to chill out, have a beer or two potentially, you never know, and hopefully some awards given out.
Yeah, thank you.
So once again, thank you for giving your time to talk to us.
And thank you, and well done. Throughout the season, it's been fantastic. This interview, you put a lot of time into this, and the questions superb, and hopefully whatever comes for you in the future is good stuff, but it means that you still got to be around us because we want you at the football club. All right?